Well, they are now starting to be punished by the monster that they created. We've seen examples over the last several years of how the MAGA wing of the Republican Party will go too far with an idea that it becomes a problem for them. But then, by their own making, by the ways in which they've conditioned their followers, their voters, and their fellow Republicans, they can't get off the ride because it's now moving too fast. And the latest problem for MAGA is that they find themselves having to run away from their very own Medicaid cuts, which they told us were only about efficiency. They were about fraud and waste and abuse. By the way, months ago, we were told arrests for the fraud they found are imminent. Not a single person has been arrested. All right, cases take time to build, but we haven't forgotten. And what is now happening is in this new big, beautiful bill, this tax bill that has tax cuts for the rich and guts a bunch of programs, Republicans are also gutting Medicaid. We talked about it in detail when we went over the substance of the bill. But when you ask them about it, of course, their initial reaction is, we're protecting Medicaid. We're not gutting Medicaid. We're protecting it by getting rid of the things that aren't working, by getting rid of the fraud, by getting rid of the abuse. They say they're strengthening it, and they say nobody is going to lose coverage as a result of what we're doing. If you do lose coverage, it's your fault. It's either because you did something wrong or we caught you or whatever the case may be. So this is not even really a debate about policy. We see contempt for their own voters. They don't give a damn. And Trump's big, beautiful bill, whatever they're calling it at this point, would lead to 15 million Americans getting kicked off of their health care coverage. They're slashing $600 billion for Medicaid. They're ending additional Obamacare subsidies. They're burying people, burying? I always struggled with that word. Burying people in so much red tape that millions are likely to give up and just go without care. And when people call them out, they just lie. They say it's only waste, fraud, and abuse. No one's going to lose coverage unless they choose to end their coverage. And what that really means is that they're telling their followers, if you suffer under this bill, it's because we believe you deserve to. That's the only reason that you would end up without coverage. Russ Vought was on TV, on CNN, and he just straight up lies. He says no one will lose coverage as a result of this bill. It's straight up untrue. Listen to this.
The other reason why we're seeing some pushback is because of the Medicaid cuts that were passed by the House and that are going to go into the Senate. There was a town hall, which I'm sure you saw. Iowa Senator Joni Ernst was asked, it was pretty raucous, about the Medicaid cuts. And she responded by saying, people were saying that people are going to die. And she said, we're all going to die. But the question that she was getting from constituents were concerns about Medicaid, food stamps, and other government support programs leading to people dying and premature deaths. What do you say to those concerns?
I think they're totally ridiculous. This is AstroTurf. This bill will preserve and protect the programs, the social safety net, but it will make it much more common sense. Look, 1 out of every $5 or $6 in Medicaid is improper. We have illegal immigrants on the program. We have able-bodied working adults that don't have a work requirement that they would have in TANF or even SNAP. And those are something that's very important to institute. That's what this bill does. No one will lose coverage as a result of this bill.
That's not what Josh Hawley, who is not exactly a liberal Democrat, said. He said it's wrong to cut health care for the working poor, and that's what we're talking about here with Medicaid.
Well, we continue to work with people in the Senate as to working them through with the specifics of the bill, what it does and what it doesn't do. We'll continue to do that. And I think at the end of the day, the Senate will have a resounding vote in favor of a substantially similar bill.
They're just lying, okay? It is abundantly clear. Around 15 million, 12 million on the low end, 18 million on the high end. Around 15 million people are going to lose coverage if this bill becomes the law in its current form. So what do we do? Because they're just lying, shamelessly lying. We probably stop arguing with them in terms of the logistics, and we just start being really clear about the truth, which is this is what they think of you. If you're poor, sick, struggling to stay afloat financially, they believe that you are the problem, not them. And what they're doing to Medicaid in the bill, it's like that Office Space scene where they figure out that the stapler guy in the basement was actually fired a while ago, but through a glitch, he was getting paid. So they go, oh, okay, so now we're telling him he no longer works here. And they go, no, 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 we've fixed the glitch. He's no longer going to get paid. It's just going to kind of sort itself out. That's a version of what Republicans are doing here. If you lose Medicaid, it's justice. It's our value system. And while we're fighting this out in policy debates, their media machine has simply moved on. Fox News tells their base everything's fine. Coverage, losing coverage, what are you talking about? Democrats are the ones destroying the country. Trump's finally here to clean it up. And they'll show you, empty folders, stacks of paper that are nothing, and say, here's the evidence. And then they'll cut Medicaid and blame Joe Biden when people get sick and have no care. They don't really need left-wing commentary to spin this stuff because they're generating their own alternate reality and it's completely self-sufficient. So they don't wait for Democrats to say something controversial. They take nothing. They turn it into outrage. I don't think arguing is going to fix this. And so we need to use their own words and their own cruelty against them. They are saying three main things. If you do get kicked off of Medicaid, it's your fault. Don't blame us. 2, if you can't work because you're sick or caring for a child, you're gaming the system. That's not a really legitimate reason not to work. And if you end up dying earlier than you should have based on medical technology that we have in 2025, we all die someday, right? That's the genius insight from Republican Senator Joni Ernst. And as Dana Bash pointed out in that segment we watched, there are even people on their side that are bailing. Josh Hawley says this is political suicide. Notice he doesn't say anything about the ethics or the morality of pulling the coverage. He just says politically this is suicide. Rand Paul says it's bad strategy. And House Republicans for now are still parroting the talking points because they've passed the bill, right? It's the Republicans in the Senate who now actually sort of have the responsibility because they can stop this thing or at least parts of it dead in its tracks. They are saying, we need to save the safety net as if that's what they really care about. So what this is really about is what every Republican tax bill is about. Transfer wealth from the sick and poor to the rich, to the ultra rich, even better. And they're not even ashamed of it. At the same time, they do recognize the political liability that it represents. So we've got to tell people not just what the bill does, but what the bill exposes Republicans really believe about them. When they show you who they are and what they believe, we should believe them. And right now, what they are saying is 15 million will lose coverage. If and when they do, it's because they deserved it. I don't know that it is a political winner. It shouldn't be. It's definitely a moral loser, that we know. Every time we call out Donald Trump's authoritarianism, the right calls it media hysteria. But I want to remind you that Trump admits he's looking for ways to defy the Constitution and maybe even pursue another term. Now, if you don't know the bias behind your news, you might believe, oh, Trump's just teasing us. There's nothing here. Go to ground.news/Pacman and see how media bias influences more than your perception from Trump's policy and ability to understand and undermine constitutional norms. I've been with Ground News for years now because this is what they do. They expose the hidden agendas behind reporting sources and make it easy to compare coverage and understand critical issues. Even better, if I'm reading a story on another site, the Ground News browser extension will flag the source's political bias and give me other reports on the same story so I can verify the information. My viewers get 40% off the same unlimited Vantage plan that I use, so you get their top tier plan for just $5 a month. Go to ground.news/Pacman. The link is in the description or scan the QR code.